Hello everyone, hope you guys are having a great day. For today's video, I am going over my round 5 at US Team Outers 2024. For your information, I will put the link to the tournament description as well as the time format in the description down below. So, going into this round, we had another tough loss in round 4 where everyone lost except my board 2 with a draw against a 2000. In this round, we got a third easy pairing and my opponent is 1800, whereas everyone else on the opponent's team is below 1200, meaning that I can finally have an interesting game while my team can guarantee the victory. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So, my opponent started with knight f3, playing the ready opening, leaving options open. Usually, I would play d5 or c5 here. However, since my team is going to have an easy time winning the round, I figure why not playing the modern, right? That's what I've been playing a lot for. So I played g6. And then he played g3, going to kind of a king sending attack setup. And I just played bishop g7, bishop g2. And here, I could have mirrored with knight to f6. However, I decided to go for d5. I opt for d5 because in case my opponent plays the actual king sending attack, I actually have a preparation against it. And d5 is kind of also delays knight f6 a little bit, so it makes my opponent a little bit more confused. However, here white also played d4, and this is now a Neo Grunfeld. I play against Neo Grunfeld a ton as white since I played already in Blitz, so I have quite a bit of experience in these positions. And the theory move here is c6. I could just go c6 or I could go knight f6. So here I go knight f6 first. And c4, again, I could go c6 here right away. But I decided to castle. I want to see what the other options are there. And also, if I castle, right, this is what I did. If my opponent captures, and I captures, this now turns into a Grunfeld. And it's a weird Grunfeld because the knight is on f3 instead of on e2. So I'll show you what I mean. So in the game, he actually takes a pawn. C takes d5. So I took back with a knight, and obviously he went for e4. So the plus in this position for white is that white hasn't played knight c3 yet. Therefore, there is no weakness on c3 for me to fight on. However, since I prep this as white, so the problem with knight on f3 is that I can play bishop g4 and pin this knight on the queen, which caused a lot of problems for white to be able to protect the d4 pawn since the pawn on c3, there's no pawn on c3. So here I play knight b6, and the and here is a problem with the ready transpose. If I was playing as white, I would not take at all. I would just play knight c3, and if they play c6, then I take on d5. But now the position is still fine. It's still equal, but now it's much harder for white to play here. So white castle, and I just went straight for bishop g4. Just straight up pinning the knight and putting the pressure on d4. And here, my opponent played e5, which is the first mistake that my opponent make. Although this seems like a logical move since it blocks my dark bishop square from attacking d4 and opens up the light square bishop. The problem is it doesn't actually protect d4. And it actually also weakens the center. The main move here is usually d5. And open up this diagonal for the bishop. But in return, you keep the center because the bishop on g2 here is doing the job of indirectly protecting d5. But here after e5, I just go knight c6. And now the d4 pawn is being pressured very hard. And you look at this position, the pawn can't actually move up. I mean, you move up, then you lose the d5 pawn and also the e5 pawn. You lose pretty much everything. And now white will have to spend every resource to protect this pawn. Since you look, if you lose this d4 pawn, this e5 pawn is also going to fall. And the center will collapse, and I will have a very easy win. So my opponent went bishop e3. I went queen d7 with the intention of stacking the rook, adding more pressure into the d4 pawn. Knight c3, rook a d8. Now it also prevents d5 because knight c3 kind of provokes d5 here. And here my opponent spent 13 minutes on this move. It's pretty reasonable, right? Because now my opponent played knight e2 here, which you see in the arrow. But the problem is that playing knight e2 is just such a passive move. And after this move, I have a super comfortable position to play. And as long as I keep pressuring d4 before white gets enough reinforcement, black will be better. And here, surprisingly, when I looked at the engine, it says that white doesn't have to protect the pawn, and black actually shouldn't take the pawn either. So here the engine move is rook to c1. And after takes, if I take this, white would simply I think white simply takes this. And sure, like I don't know, I don't remember exactly. I only analyzed until here. I think actually probably his bishop takes. And then white can sacrifice the center, but in return, white will get back the initiative and the pawns on the queen side. As after it takes knight b5, now the pawns on the queen side is starting to fall. But okay, my opponent played knight e2, thinking that the center pawn has to be protected, which makes sense in human's perspective. If I was white, I would play knight e2 too, even if I really don't like it. Because now I realize, oh, I already messed up like really hard out of the opening. So here I can start attacking with the center with f6, which is not very wise, but it's still a fine move. So pawn takes, probably the only move because I'm threatening to capture. And now bishop f6. E takes f6 would have been better. However, I am not trying to play like the absolute best move here. I am simply trying to apply as much pressure as possible on the d4 pawn. And also, you look, my plan is actually trying to go e5 here. And if I take with the e pawn, sure, I have a great game, and this pawn is still weak. But now I'm blocking my bishop for kind of no reason. So that's why I didn't like to do. And however, the problem of bishop takes f6 is that it allows bishop h6, which seems like it doesn't do anything. But in the next two moves you will see. So bishop h6, I just move the rook. And here, knight g5 is a move. This is what I was looking at like the whole time before I move rook f7. And what happens in my calculation is that bishop takes g5 and bishop takes g5, and my position is actually not comfortable at all. And I'm also down a bishop pair. So maybe I'll get this pawn. I'm not very sure. Like maybe bishop here, knight d4. But still my position is a little odd with the bishop pair being very strong. And my knights are not so great. However, here, my opponent played knight e5, which is a blunder. Now it allows me to be up a piece. I did spend quite a bit of time calculating because this is probably the winning move of the game, right? So I just spent a little bit of time making sure. And also, I thought that even though I will be up a piece, there might be some tricky mate threats that I maybe overlooked. I'm not sure. Um, yeah, so here I just take on e5. And pawn takes, queen takes, rook f takes d1, and boom, the knight is hanging. This is a pretty standard, simple tactic that I spot. But here, this is why I was calculating. This is why I was scared of, because my knight is a little odd on d8, and also my back rank is very weak since my rook is on f7 now. But then again, I went for this line because I saw that there should be nothing going on, and I should be able to defend very carefully. So now that I'm up a clean piece, the game just kind of went on, and I just started trading down pieces. So here, obviously, doesn't want to trade rooks anymore because there's no mate threats. And he went rook e1. But not trading piece means I still have the rook on the d file. So bishop c4, kind of preventing e6. Sort of, I guess. I mean, but e6 now, I just go rook f6. And the pawn is going to fall. So b3. Bishop d5, and now I start trading off this very strong bishop. And I also don't want to allow bishop takes c6, potentially weakening my structure for absolutely no reason. And the bishop doesn't really have good square to go. I mean, you can try bishop h3, but I'm just going to go e6. And sure, this position is fine, but I'm just now up a clean piece, and my pieces are very coordinated, and I'm about to go rook d7 as well. So my opponent went f4. I took on g2, just keep trading pieces, and now I still go e6 anyway because I kind of just don't want to allow e6. And also there's threats of bishop g5 eyeing on my e7 pawn, and I don't want to spend time protecting it. Also, it opens up the way for the rook to go in and stack on the d file instead of having to move my rook for like 3 moves. So bishop g5, rook d3, rook a d1, rook f d7 to stack in the rooks, and now the game should be over pretty soon. King f2, and king f2 just kind of force trading the rooks, or he just loses a straight pawn. Rook d2, rook e2, rook takes, king takes, and now this is a pretty simple endgame. You look at this bishop, it is so bad, like legitimately so bad, because it doesn't have any square. And I only have f6, but f6 doesn't do anything either. So knight d5, a3, knight d4. So this is a pretty easy conversion from my end. So now I just go for the bishop, and then now this is a pretty clean endgame where I am up a knight and a pawn, and my opponent resigned. And the white king actually cannot get in, like, because the triple pawn should control all the 3 square, the 4 square actually. So I think overall this is probably a pretty good game for me, because again, I got a chance to actually play the modern, and now I know that the modern is also very solid against the ready. And also I don't have to play knight f6 and move 1. It allows me to have some more flexibility that I can look at. My overall for the round, we have the third sweep 4-0, very easy, going 3 out of 5. And we are really hoping to win in the last round. We know that based on the pairing, we probably will get a very, very strong team again. But hopefully we get a more balanced team. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.